speaking. Yes, I can solve your sales problem. You know where my office is at the Spaces, right? I'll see you there soon. I'm gonna have my coffee now. Bye.
Welcome to the Paul Cruz Sales Agency. I have a very powerful and effective topic that I'm going to share with you salespeople, entrepreneur, and small business owners. Before we dig into the topic, if you're watching this on my channel and you like this video, do me a favor, smash the like button. And if you want to follow me on my channel, just hit the subscription button below. Now, what is this topic about? I'm sure some of you have experienced maybe once or twice in your life where you're going through a sales presentation, and then because you're desperate to get the sale, you lose focus on the process, that at the end of the sale, you start to drop your price dramatically, and then you wind up not getting the sale, right? Has that ever happened to you before? I could say it's happened to me twice in my life in 30 years. So what I'm going to share with you is how to sell your value without having to drop your price. I never, ever drop my sales price. The only time I do, if I do, is when I decide, you know what, I just want to build a relationship with this prospect, so I'm going to make it a fair price so that they can't say no. And then after a certain period of time, I go back to my market value. So let's dig into this topic. But before we do, you have to be excited about this, because guess what, guys? Excitement sells. And those of you who don't believe excitement sells, then you really don't understand sales or selling, okay? Now, let's dig into this topic. Okay, so how to sell your value without having to drop your price. That's the topic for today, okay? So now, the number one thing you must do is, and I got my cheat sheet chart here, so I always carry it with me. The number one thing, and a lot of people ignore this, okay, the number one thing is this. You have to target the right prospect or lead. I'll give an example. Right before my production, I got a call from a prospect from 2 days ago that I targeted. I wound up doing business with them the second day, and now we may do a nationwide deal. Why? Because you have to target the right prospect or lead. Why is that important? Because at the end, it's not about the numbers. It's about the right numbers, meaning this. If you know who your prospect really is and who qualifies for your services or product, you're going to have a better opportunity to not only engage them, but more importantly, you're going to have a higher conversion ratio. Why? Because you target the right prospect. That's the problem I've learned with a lot of salespeople. They don't target the right people because it takes work and effort to target who your audience is. Why? Because I've learned a lot of people just get caught up into the social media where they just want everybody, anybody to follow them, but they're not real prospects, at least in my opinion, in my view. So for me, it's important that I target who my qualified audience is. That's number one. Okay, now number two, if you do this right and you target the right prospect or the right lead, now number two, this is what's important. You must qualify your prospect. Okay? You must qualify your prospect. See, one of the things that happens is there's one thing getting a prospect or a target prospect or a lead. The most important thing after that is qualifying them. In other words, during the call process, during the sales process, you got to ask very specific questions that they need to answer so that you can solve their problem. Because the only reason why I call a prospect is because they have a problem. Most of the prospects I target have sales problems. They need more sales, right? So I have to qualify my prospects. You have to qualify your prospects. And that takes effort, that takes energy, that takes excitement, that takes a lot of different elements. But at the end, if you don't qualify those prospects, you're just throwing darts. That's what you're doing. Does that make sense? Okay, so now number 3. This is my favorite. Number 3. This is a strategy or method that I've been using for many years. It's called the straight line method. I'm going to give you an analogy. If you're going to go travel, whether it's by car, by plane, by boat, by anywhere, when you're traveling, you need a map, right? You need to know how long it's going to take, how to get there. You need to know what your expenses are going to be, how much is it going to cost. You got to have a map to do that, right? Selling is no different. You got to have a strategy. You got to have a map. The straight line method that I've been using for 30 years, it allows me to stay on what I call the track. What is the result that we're looking for when we're selling people? We're looking for sales, right? But you got to have a process or a straight line method to get there. During the straight line method, this is where your value is revealed. How you handle objections, how you use your rebuttals, how you ask questions. How do you determine if it's an objection or is it a buying question? That takes skills. And what the straight line method does, I say this to my salespeople, there's no money in Pluto and Mars. In other words, if you get off that straight line method and you allow the prospect to take you to Pluto, meaning giving you an objection that's not legitimate in the sales process and you don't know how to bring them back to the track, then you're going to lose the sale. So it's important that you stay on that straight line method, because when you have that straight line method, it keeps you focused. It allows you to go through the selling process so that you eventually can close the deal. The straight line method. So that's number 3. Number 4 is sell you. You are, or you should believe this, you are the value and commodity. Now, what I'm about to share with you, I don't want you to think it's arrogant or, as some people say, conceited or egotistical. I am a commodity. I have value. I know how to show my value, give my value, and offer my value. That's why my clients hire me. That's why I produce a lot of sales for my prospects or for my client. Why? Because when you understand your value, and that you're a commodity, you become priceless. That's why I never drop my price, because I always sell me first. I always sell my value first. I offer my value. My value is I solve sales problem. That's what I do. I'm really good at it. Again, I'm not trying to sound arrogant. I'm just giving you some facts. So if you don't know your value and you don't believe in your value and you don't have the skills to be valuable, then you're never going to be a commodity. And that's what people buy. They buy into you first. Because if they don't believe you, they don't trust you, they don't see value in you, no matter how good your product and services are, and they may know that it could solve their problem, they're not going to buy from you. They're just not. So you have to understand that. And when you understand your value, you understand your skill, and you offer your value, and you give your value, then it's easier to do steps 1, 2, and 3. I should have done step 4 first, but I wanted to lead you to that. Does that make sense? So you got to sell you. You got to sell your value because you are the commodity. You are the bridge between the product and the consumer. Because remember, we're all consumers, right? You, me, the prospects, and we're all business owners, right? All right, so now number 5. Number 5, guys. This is where a lot of people go wrong, in my opinion. Number 5 is closing questions. What I call the box close. Some of you might have heard this terminology, some of you have not. A box close is simply this. It's a box, and you close them in that box. They can't breathe, they can't get out. How do you do a box close? Throughout the whole sales process, you ask questions, tie-down questions, path of least resistance questions, statement questions. But I'm going to share with you 3 powerful questions during the end of the selling process that if you do it right, you're going to have a high conversion ratio and you're going to increase your monthly cash flow. Because these 3 questions are the most powerful questions I believe and that I've been using for a long time and that it works every single time. And the only time it doesn't work, guess what? Is when I don't use them. There's a saying, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? That's what happens. Sometimes we try to be too creative with all the gizmos and all the tricks instead of keeping it fundamental and simple. So I'm going to share with you 3 powerful box close questions that if you use at the end of the sales presentation, you're going to see a higher conversion ratio. All right, so let's go to that before we go. All right, now, what are the 3 questions? No matter what the product, no matter what the service is, if you ask these 3 questions during the end of the sales presentation, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to find out what the real objection is if they have one. And number 2, you're going to close more deals. Okay, so this is what I do. Now, the purpose of this do you like the idea? After you give your presentation and you show your value and you give your value and you qualify your prospect and you know their problems and you have solutions, at the end of the presentation, you must ask this question. Do you like the idea? And if you did it right, there's only one answer you should get, and that's a yes. Do you like the idea? Number 2, does it make sense? What is the it? Does the idea make sense? I want you to think about this. They cannot like an idea. You cannot like an idea. I cannot like an idea, if I'm being truthful, if it doesn't make sense. You just can't, in my opinion, logically. So if they like the idea, chances are it's going to make sense. But you want to box them in there. The 3rd question for the box close. Do you see and understand the value? Do you see and understand the value? In other words, that it provides solutions, that it's going to help them generate more sales, that it's going to solve their cash flow problem. They have to like the idea. The idea has to make sense for them to make intelligent business decisions. Do they see and understand the value you're offering them, the solutions to their problem, without the gimmicks, without the tricks, without the hype? And if you can do that correctly, consistently, watch your sales grow. Now, before we end this topic, I want to share something with you. And I'm reading from my notes. And here's the best advice I can offer you, salespeople, entrepreneur, and small business owner. When you understand what your value is, what your skill is, what you're offering, and you understand who your target is, and you qualify them, you have to be assertive, and you have to be aggressive. And you have to go out there and earn that business. And you have to do it with confidence. You have to do it with conviction. Because if you don't have conviction, how are you going to convince others that they need it? And then finally is this. No one likes to feel like they're being sold, right? Yet everyone buys. So how do you get them to buy from you? How do I get them to buy from me? They buy me. They take ownership of me. They take ownership of the process. Then they take ownership of the product and services that you're offering them. It is that simple, guys. But you got to do the work. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. I want to thank you for those of you who follow me on my channel, who are watching me on my channel. Again, if you like this video, smash the like button. If you want to follow me, hit the subscription below. And remember this, sell your value up front and you never ever have to drop your price. Take care.